Oil. The tug of war between supply and demand is in full effect. Is it time to buy oil yet? Stay tuned. The tug of war on oil between supply and demand. Yes. I've been talking about oil for the last couple of months, saying that it wasn't right to buy oil yet unless you're a little bit more aggressive. Why? Because oil contracts came out in, April, going March into April, where it was at a negative. The futures contracts were negative. First time it ever happened. And when that happened, people jumped all over oil, driving oil prices higher. But what did I tell you? I said the prices were going higher because people were buying it because it was so low. What normally moves oil is demand. Demand's not there. And we had a glut of oil. We had ships sitting in the sea holding millions of barrels of oil because we didn't have any place to put them. So finally now we're getting more into the digging in of the supply, and the supply is decreasing. Not to the point that we got full-on demand yet, but we are getting close. This story says OPEC and Russia-led oil alliance agree to increase production. Wait a minute. They were the ones that were saying, man, we got to put a stop to all of this because oil's getting killed. We're going to cut back on production to help drive demand higher. Well, even with that happening, they're still feeling the effects. And it's like, well, we're going to turn back around a little bit. That's the Southern accent. They said even in Russia, imagine a Russian Southern accent. Well, comrade, and I don't know how I could put that together, a Russian Southern accent. But anyway, they're at the point where we're gonna start to increase production again. An alliance of crude producers led by Saudi Arabia agreed on Wednesday to increase oil production starting in August. Officials in the group said amid signs that demand is recovering. So the demand is not there, but it's starting to come into place, recovering following the coronavirus-related lockdowns. All right, let's go to the next story within this. Oil declines slightly after surprise build in U.S. inventory. So I just talked about that we were going and getting out of the oversupply. Well, we picked up inventories in regards to our oil slightly again. That's going to help to build up supply. And at this point, in order for oil to really start to move, the demand has got to kick in. It's not there yet, but it could be getting close to that happening. And you'll notice that a lot of these stories, all I'm really interested is the headlines, because we're going to analyze the stocks. Anything you want to add before I go look at the stocks, Susan?
Yes, a couple of things there, Glenn. I actually have a position that I'm going to talk about after you talk about what stock you're going to talk about. So I'll leave the stock side of things there. Two things I want to mention. First one is, as I mentioned, I love when I get a chance to go over to you guys. And being managing director of VectorVest Europe, I've had the opportunity to be in several countries of the European Union, and I have not left this city, namely Dublin in Ireland, since I came. I think the last time I was on a flight was the very beginning of February. Now, I am joined by millions of people who generally travel an awful lot and that we can't anymore. That, I don't think, Glenn, is ultimately going to change a huge amount. Is that we have gotten used to our lives being Zoomified, and we are used now to being on Teams. We spoke about Microsoft earnings earlier. I mean, you and me talk all the time on Teams. We talk all the time on WhatsApp, whether it's Slack, you name the channel. So we have to look at this from the point of view currently around the demand for oil and specifically travel. Travel is ultimately a huge demander of oil. The second thing that I want to mention is ESG. Right? It's three letters that we haven't spoken about yet. Which is environmental, social and governance. Now, I just want to give your listeners and your VV Nation an insight into this. I once did a Facebook Live for VectorVest, I think it was last November, where I looked into the money going into ESG ETFs. And what I found was that 52% of the money that's in ESG ETFs is actually coming from Europe, despite the fact that Europe generally only, I think, contributes around about 17% of ETF funds globally. So it's very hard to put together oil stocks and ESG together. So therefore, you're dealing with two fundamental shifts there. One is a societal one that is driving money. And then on the other hand, you're also dealing with the culture of how we do business in the world. Now, when you talk about the demand coming back for oil, yes. However, Glenn, we started off with a conversation about payroll. And remember, at the end of the day, it is people drive the demand. People and the businesses that they work in and the families that they drive and the holidays that they take. So if we are going to see a more protracted slowdown than we anticipate, or if we see lockdowns lift and then maybe be reimposed again, we are going to see a slowdown in demand for it again because people simply won't be traveling. So I would be cautious enough here. I really would be cautious on the way in which they were interpreting the demand for oil, because just like I saw as an Irish person, the demand for the property market just before the crash, is it fundamentally changed for half a decade. And we need to think about here, our lives have changed and things have become habitual. They have. Habits will have dug in by the time all of this is over. So let's just be considerate of that. And yes, I've taken a position. I don't want to reveal what that is before you talk about what you want to talk about here. But certainly I would just note those 2 points, is that we're looking at once in a generation, once in a lifetime change when it comes to this market.
I look at all of that. I'm with you to a certain degree. I think that, and whether this is politics or not, I don't think that the people, the powers to be in regards to the big oil companies are going to let oil sit where it is. I know that's a little weird to say, but it is. And the demand does come from people. The demand does come from people's ability to go put gas in their cars. And the big part of that is travel. Airlines are getting smoked because of the whole pandemic. At some point in time, I think that oil will right now with the wheels spinning in the sand, that oil will catch hold. And I don't, even though we're in a different paradigm, even though we're in a different paradigm in our world, because of a lot of people are liking staying at home. And if you like staying at home and you're not driving to work, the demand is going to go down. But somehow or another, I think that there's too many powerful people in the power of the be with oil, that I don't think that you can stop oil from going back up. I don't know if it's going to go back to up to where it was. That's just a side note from within me. It's more not analysis, but a lot more of gut feeling from me. All right, so I understand what you're saying in regards to the demand. I don't know. This is more gut feeling than analysis. That's all. It's more gut feeling than analysis. And people are saying, well, who's hosting today? Hush. This is me and Susan, and I want Susan's input today. So leave me alone. We got this. I got this. She got this. Leave it alone. She's doing an outstanding job, and I love hearing the insight coming from others than somebody like me. You think Joey's going to give me this kind of insight? No. So I love her insight, and that's why I'm glad that she's on today. I got this. All right, so just letting that be known. I want her insight. All right, let's go to the watch list. That's right, Leonardo. Susan is great. Susan is being polite to you, Glenn. What being polite? She's doing what I asked her to do and what she wants to do.
I think that comment meant that you won't stop talking.
That I won't stop talking?
Yeah, you didn't let her talk at the beginning.
She did talk at the beginning.
Okay.
Did you not talk at the beginning, Susan? Oh, man. All right, fine.
You're doing just fine, Glenn.
No, that's Joey. Joey.
We're all good. We got this.
All right. Anyway, I'm going to keep on going. I hate you, Joey. All right, but in a loving way. By the way,
just to say to all of those people at VV Nation, Joey and Glenn are like this offline as well. Seriously, I talk to both of them quite a bit at the moment. They are really like this offline as well. It really is. It's great to see.
And I still want to say again, Susan, thank you so much for all of your insight on everything that you're adding to today's presentation. Big time. All right. And Michael says, gotta razz Glenn to keep him on the level. Listen, I'm always on the level. All right, folks, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so. Right below this video, you have the subscribe button. Please subscribe. Don't forget to like, too, especially if you like the comments, the content today. Please like, as we keep on moving. All right, so the stocks I'm going to look at today are WTI. Let me sort this. I have this sorted. WTI. I want to look at USO, and I got another thing going on today, which is different. I'm going to look at the volatility on oil to help you as well. That's something that I've never done in here, but I got a couple little twists going on. All right. The only one that has any fundamentals behind it is W&T Offshore, Western Texas, WTI. Fundamentally not sound. All right. And it's not moving up in price by way of RT. But if I look at USO, the fund ETF, I do have an RT of 1.59. It's definitely moving higher. Now, I'm going to put all three of these on the graph. All right, view the stock graph. I want you to see something. There's WTI again. Susan is right in regards to a lot of people are staying home. A lot of people don't want to go back to work. And you know something? I think that a lot of people can get a lot of stuff done while at home, a lot more than they can at work where they could be interrupted a lot more. But the demand is not there. I've been talking. Here is where we had the March, April contracts expire below zero or in negative. That was the run. And I just said, if you're a little bit more aggressive, you could pull the trigger on that. But overall, the demand wasn't there. Now, as we bounce off this level of support sitting at $2.18, we're now moving sideways on the WTI. Let's go to the USO, though. USO is coming up. Put this on a 3-month graph. Coming up. Look at that. Now, as that's going on, was there a split in this? No. I thought it was. Yeah, there's the split. That's what affected the volume down here because of the split that happened. A 1-to-8 split on 429. I thought so as far as the volume was concerned. So I'm watching the USO oil fund index, which is the futures on the commodity, rising but doing a little bit of a sideways move. RT is above 1 but also pulling back, which makes sense as the stock is moving sideways or the ETF is moving sideways. Now, here's the volatility on crude. Now, I'm going to do something. I'm going to close that out. How did I want to do this? I think I had that right. View the stock graph. But let's go put this on to something that we hardly ever look at as a performance graph. So WTI, let's take off the petroleum. What was the other two stocks we're going to look at? USO. USO, comma, and the OVX. OVX. All right. Notice that oil starts to move up as oil. Let's go put this on a 3-month graph. This is a performance graph. Knowing that the volatility on this industry is pulling down. All right, less people frightful being in this industry. What's going on with the WTI, USO, and in petroleum as a whole? All right, this is something that we hardly ever look at, but I'm thinking that this is another way to see if it's possibly the right time to be in oil, just like you would do on the S&P 500 with the VIX. When the VIX is low, the volatility on the S&P 500 is low, the S&P 500 tends to go up. But notice that when the volatility was high, look at what happened to oil. That was back at the time when those contracts expired or they came out zero and below. Look at the volatility. Look at what happened with oil. Now, as time is going along, all right, we are going through our oversupply. Volatility is falling, whereas these three are rising. But as this is falling, you would think that you would see this rising a little bit more instead of pulling back. So this leaves me, just like what Susan says, I'm at a point of pause when it comes down to looking at these stocks right now. That indicator that I don't know how many of you have ever used, another little special twist today in looking at a possibility when to get on. I really would like to see the volatility of the oil index to fall, overall oil, and these indicators rising, whether it's on the WTI, petroleum as a whole, or on the USO. All right, that's a little something different that you get within the VectorVest software called the performance graph. Anything you want to add to that, Susan?
Yeah, there is actually. I just want to go back to a time when USO, particularly, well, the oil price was negative, Glenn, right? You've mentioned that,
Right.
And I remember talking to my husband about this. I was saying, right, should we take on an oil stock? But it was like, if people remember back then, just like you said, I mean, we were looking at all these big oil tankers sitting pretty in the ocean, basically, and not able to go anywhere. And I said, while I know that oil is negative, I'm not 100% sure about where this is going. So what we did was that we sold put on XLE, actually. It goes back to your point about biotech. So we sold a position, which is the energy ETF, XLE, and I'm happy to tell you exactly what I did. I have the where we're at the moment right now in front of me. So I took in a premium of $4.75 per share on a strike of 36. So in essence, the volatility that you're talking about there, Glenn, rather than take on a position and just suffer it, we ultimately, by selling a premium on that, now at the time it was slightly in the money, by selling a put on that, I simply took that volatility and put it into the premium. Obviously you take on the risk that nothing is going to go crazy, but also I didn't put a spread on this because I would have had to pay for that same volatility as well. So as a result, it's expiring in August, third Friday of the month. I have got 29 days to go. I'll see how much at the moment. I'm going to see how much I'm going to wait until, probably won't wait till expiry. And as I am talking to you right now, the price that is trading at the moment is 105. So I'm up $3.70 on the share. And this is one example of an option, because there's been a couple of positions that have taken since March where I would have been better off simply selling, buying the stock instead of selling an option. But this isn't one of them. This is one where it's been volatile, pretty much traded flat within that volatility. So this was a prime example of get paid to take on the volatility. If people are going to stay awake at night, I personally think myself getting paid to take that on, particularly if I had taken on an oil stock or taken on XLE, if it was actually put to me, despite the fact that all of what was going on in the energy sector at the time, because it was really, really challenged, I would have been happy enough to take that. But as I say, I got paid to take that volatility at the top, which is great. And just before I go back to you on this, just Julian asked there, is Susan using US options or European? Julian, I do both, and I'm really happy to talk about some European positions that I've taken as well. But I do want to make one point, is that the contract size for both US as well as Europe is the same. So it's 100 stocks. In the UK, it's 1,000. And I noticed some people are asking me to share charts. I simply can't do that. Glenn is the guy in the driving seat, so I simply can't do that right now. Otherwise, it would look far too confusing between the two of us. So it's not that we're not doing it. We have considered that, but it's all about your improved and optimized experience. That's why we're doing that.
All right. Thank you for that. And, just the overall understanding from the oil perspective, the volatility is pulling back, but I'm not seeing the response as really rocking and rolling, with the exception of the WTI is outperforming all of them right now. I would really like to see these start moving up with a little bit more alacrity. I think that's a good word. If it ain't, I'm going to say it confident. With a lot more alacrity, and then I'd be ready. I'm still not super duper ready to pull the trigger on oil yet. I just need that demand to be there. Susan gave some information or some analysis on why the demand might not come back ever. I'm thinking, or not come back real soon, because we are at a different paradigm in our market right now. This is a different change. Just like what happened back in 2007, 2008, the paradigm of the market changed. And I think we're going through another paradigm change right now. And I think more people are going to be in tune with doing a lot of things over Zoom. I do it for church. I do it for a lot of different things. And is it going to become the mainstay? Don't know. But will it greatly increase from where we were prior to the pandemic? The answer to that is yes, it will. All right, so we'll see what happens with demand. I still am a big feeler of demand's got to be in place to drive oil back up, and we'll see how that all comes up. But don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And don't forget, Susan, do me a favor. How can they reach out to you, or how can they link up to Fantastic Female Fridays?
Thanks, Glenn, for asking me that. So first of all, if you subscribe to the channel, and I know a lot of VV Nation have already done that, then you will know, you will be able to see when the show is going live. But also, if you search for Fantastic Female Fridays and also put a notification on, you can click to get a notification when we go live tomorrow at 12 noon. That can also work as well. And then the last way is to go to vectorvest.com/FFF.
There you go. Thank you for that. I wanted to make sure that they could do that, and we put that out there.